Is your mind constantly racing, draining your energy, and leaving you feeling exhausted? What if there was a simple way to live with your thoughts without them overpowering you and controlling you when you don't want them to? So we're going to think about that today. In this video, we're going to talk about the nature of excessive thinking, why it's more common now than ever, and how Vipassana meditation helps us break free from this cycle. Right? So the first fundamental thing to really understand about thinking from a Vipassana perspective is that it is just a different form of sensation, right? In Vipassana meditation, we're focusing on our physical sensations, and we are staying equanimous and having a heightened sense of awareness. Now, the only thing that separates physical sensations from thoughts is that thoughts are just mental sensations, right? It has different qualities, different ways of perceiving that sensation, but it is just a different form of sensation. And, another thing to realize about thoughts is just because you're not aware of the thoughts doesn't mean your thought process stops, right? Just like your memories, right? The memory of your high school graduation, if you graduated, just because you're not aware of it 100% of the time doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? It's like just stored in your brain. It's like in a part that you're not aware of, right? And so thoughts are kind of the same way. They're this ongoing process that is continuously going, that is incorporating so many different things, but you don't have to be aware of it, right? You don't have to pay attention to it if you don't want to. And that is what Vipassana meditation really allows you to tap into. It changes your relationship to thoughts from being this all-encompassing stream that you always have to pay attention to and, being so identified in it and so involved in it to be able to take a step away from it, right? To be like, this is the stream of thoughts and here is how I step out. Because the constant overthinking, it's really annoying. It drains your energy and it takes a toll on your well-being, especially when you can't stop it, right? You're like, I just want to stop. So why does this happen? And how can we stop it? So Vipassana meditation offers a unique approach to breaking the cycle of excessive thinking, right? Instead of fighting your thoughts, instead of, even thinking, I don't want to think this thought, I want to stop, thinking I want to just be, or I want to have different thoughts, it really changes our relationship with them. How do we change that relationship? Number one is really understanding, bringing our practice of Vipassana, that equanimity that we are developing as we remain neutral minded, as we observe these physical sensations, translates into being more neutral when we observe, our thoughts and all the emotions that come with them. However, the difference between physical sensations and mental sensations of thoughts and emotions is with physical sensations, we're already pretty much neutral towards it, right? It's like, you focus on your feet touching the floor and, granted that your feet aren't in terrible pain or anything, it's just like a neutral feeling. It's like a whatever feeling. There's lots of feelings, but it's like whatever. But then when you take your thoughts and your emotions and, the people and the things and the ideas and the feelings and everything connected to it, the memories, the inspirations, the futures, right? It's so much more emotionally charged, right? We have so much more attachment and reactions to them naturally. And so it is a lot harder to be neutral towards these sensations. But if we see them just as sensations, then the practice that we are cultivating in our 1 hour morning sit and 1 hour evening sit will translate into, when we are overthinking and when this process is constantly, taking over. And when you break free from this loop, right, you're conserving mental energy. You're not wasting your energy. You're gaining clarity and you're experiencing a deeper sense of calm. And this deeper sense of calm as you move throughout the day allows you to engage more with life and to show up as the best version of yourself, right? So imagine just going through your day with a clear and focused mind instead of a chaotic one that's always tired and everything is popping up while you're not even done thinking about the thing you were thinking about before. So, I'll share a story. During my first 10-day meditation in Onalaska in Washington State, I had this realization, right? I had this realization during the Anapana, the first 3 days of the 10-day, you're just focusing on your breath at your nostrils. And what I really realized was the stark difference between focusing on your breath and your like mental processing your thoughts, right? One was so energetic and so engaging, right? Your thoughts, they're in the past, all the regrets, all the things that happened, the enjoyments, they're about the present. What am I doing here? I'm just sitting. I'm not doing this. They're about the future, the hope. And look, it's like this magician that can time travel to the past, to the future, that's got all this exciting drama, and things are just made out to be much more than they are, and everything is infinitely endless, and you can just imagine and think about everything. And then you got your breath over here, right? It's got two parts. There's an inhale and there's an exhale, right? And it's like, as I was trying to focus on my breath, I could start to feel my addiction towards this drama, right? Because like this was such a boring thing. Like, it's coming in, it's going out. It's coming in, it's going out. That's it. It's like literally so boring. And that is when when I was a beginner. Now the breath is much more exhilarating and exciting, but more, I'll talk about that later, how the breath is a lot more than just the inhale or the exhale, or how the inhale and exhale represent much more than just a simple mechanical process. So I was going back and forth and really noticing how enthralled I was in my thought process, right? In this mental, energetic movement, past, future, thoughts and emotions and regrets and just all of these things. I needed that excitement, or rather I was addicted to that excitement, right? They're so dramatic, they're so high stakes, and they just grab my attention so effortlessly. So what I've learned about the breath, right, as I continue to practice, is there is much more excitement in the breath, right? And now look, just listen, right? Just listen to what I'm going to say. There is a lot more excitement in the breath than in this whole mental concoction of repetitive cyclical thinking and reactivity that's going on. And what is that? Like, what does, the breath have that makes it so much more exciting, right? On first look, again, I get it. On first look, when you first sit down to meditate and you haven't developed your skill, it's quite boring. It's just in and out. And within 2 seconds, your mind is already like, yep, I'm bored. I'm out of here. However, as I have personally developed in my meditation practice, right, the breath represents and is my life, right? Within my breath can reflect the states of my mental emotions, my mental thoughts, my mental habit patterns. And it represents, like, through observing it, I can observe changes and gain wisdom about my mind and the makeup of my mind. For instance, if I am angry or I am having a thought, right? Like in this part of my mind, I'm having a thought about something that made me angry. It will reflect in the breath as a change to the rhythm of the breath, right? It gets a little tighter. Like I hold my breath a little more. I make it more tense. And similarly, if I'm having a happy, joyful thought, or things are just playing in my mind, they put a smile on my face, then that also reflects in the rhythm of the breath, in the tension. There's less tension, more relaxation, and just more joy in the breath as well, right? And so what the breath allows me to do is understand and observe how the entire mindscape of emotions and thoughts are interlinked, right? I can see subtle differences between anger levels or joy levels or different levels of thoughts or attachments to things in how they reflect on my breath, right? And even more than that, even more than how my breath reflects my mental, emotional, and physical states, because even when I'm like in pain or I'm sick, that will show up in the breath. It will change the rhythm of the breath. The normality of the breath will not be as it usually is. So beyond that, right, tuning into this breath is a process that my body is doing, right? On the first level, it appears that my body is inhaling and exhaling. And on a much deeper level, right, it is also the forces that are acting on my body, right? The gravity that's pulling me down, the forces that are holding my molecules together, the life energy that is coursing through this, physical material. All of these things are contributing to the breath and are upholding the breath. So by observing the breath, I'm tuning into this universal architectural expression of existence in this particular form right now, right? And so I'm tapping into this knowledge and wisdom that is so much more infinite than my thoughts, right? So earlier I said how the thoughts, how focusing on your breath is actually a lot more exciting and much more engaging and much more fruitful than thoughts. And this is what it is when you get to a level where you're tapping into, maybe experiencing the functioning of the whole universe as it expresses itself through you, right? How much information is contained in all the universal laws, right? How much information is contained in every single molecule, right? Every single organ, every single body part, every single thing, fields that are contributing to this. How much information is that compared to, right, in my thought process when I'm thinking and rethinking things? I am having a very limited number of thoughts that I keep looping through, right? A limited number of experiences, right? I'm like highlighting certain memories that I've had in my X amount of years in life, right? And the information that my thoughts and my emotions react to are very tiny compared to the laws that govern the whole universe, right? It's just magnitudes, like many magnitudes different. So when you really tune in, right? When I really tune into my meditation practice, it is much more engaging and much more fruitful than my thoughts. So now back to how to start breaking this cycle of overthinking and over-attachment to our thought process, right? In Vipassana, of course, we do body scanning and, of course, Anapana as well, where we're focusing on our breath if our mind isn't there. And one of the key things in Vipassana is equanimity, right? Equanimity, to remain equanimous with whatever you are experiencing. And when it comes to thoughts, right, the thoughts arise and they have different thoughts have different ideas behind them, different memories, different futures, different everything. And yet they are, if you treat them just as sensations, which they are, and you learn to be equanimous with it, right, that will allow you to experience a more peaceful relationship with your thoughts, right? And this really allows you to, this non-reactivity, when you remain equanimous when your thoughts are popping up and you observe, okay, so this thought has this particular quality. Like when we're observing our sensations in our body, you're like, oh, there is heat with this sensation, right? In this point in my body right now, there is heat, or there is tickly, like it feels tickly, or it feels, like ants are crawling, that's a famous Goenka line. And, you don't judge the difference in whether it's warm, whether it's a prickly sensation, whether it's a zappy sensation, you just observe it. Now, similarly, when it comes to thoughts, right, is, this thought might be about this topic or that topic, but you have that same equanimity and you recognize, oh, not that necessarily that you start to name them and say, oh, this is a thought about, so-and-so doing this, you're not like repeating the thought itself, but just observing that, hey, this is a thought that has arisen that has these certain qualities, and I am remaining equanimous with them, right? So your equanimity allows you to have your thoughts weaken their grip on you, right? And this allows you to experience a more peaceful mind. Now, here's another thing to consider, right? If your body does things that you don't want it to do, right? If my hand just started like doing its own thing like this, without me intending it to, right? It would be considered an ailment, right? However, when it comes to our thoughts, when it does the same thing, when it is just going out of control without your permission, you don't want it to do what it's doing, but it's just continuously doing its own thing, that is considered normal. And why is that considered normal? It's because, people haven't developed their relationship with this system. And having not developed their relationship with this system, the thought process is such a pull. It's just a thing that really pulls you in and sucks you in, makes you identified with it, that you think that the only thing that's existing is your thoughts and your relations to those thoughts. And those thoughts represent your connection to the world, right? To such a limited world, a social world where it's, there's people in it, there's things, there's the way that you feel about those things, there's the way that those things have affected you. It's such a small aspect of the whole universe, right? And so being able to break out of that and say, look, life is so much more than, my relationships, than my work, than the things that I do. All those things are fantastic. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't do those things. Those things are absolutely incredible, right? And there is this magnificent symphony. There's this magnificent orchestra of life happening within you, and in such a sophisticated and complex way. And when you haven't explored that, and you take just one small part to be the end all be all, right? You're doing a great disservice to this experience of being a human, right? So continue to practice equanimity, right? Continue to practice in your Vipassana, because it does help you change your relationship to your thoughts. It shows you a whole different experience. And now when it comes to sampajana, which is being aware of your sensations on a certain part of your body at all times throughout your day, does something else, right? You start to experience more than just your thoughts. First, you're exploring your physical sensations, and what you realize is you can have both at the same time. You can be aware, like for instance, you can be aware of your feet touching the ground right now, and you can listen to me at the same time. They're not mutually exclusive, and they don't get in the way of each other, because they're like different processes that is happening in your mind. And what that does is, right, it creates some distance. First, you're not fully attached to just thoughts and experiencing only thoughts. You're experiencing more things, right? You're experiencing your feet, which are so neutral right now, and your thoughts, and you're listening to me, right? And so this distance, right, it just creates more space in your mindscape that creates less attachment to this particular thing, and leads to less overreacting to it, leads to more calm, more peace. And, Vipassana meditation is a slow, gradual process. It is a process that can liberate you, and that will take you there. So just remember, peace of mind isn't something that you find. It's something that you cultivate, and it's something you can cultivate through your Vipassana practice. And with Vipassana, you have the tools to continue to develop these skills, or start to develop these skills. So if you're ready to, continue your practice, feel free to do so. If you've never done Vipassana meditation, you'll see a link down below with a sign up for a 10-day. Please do that. It will be the best gift you have ever given yourself. Thank you all so much.